Tuning you in now to the LBX show with your host, Brandon Wiley. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
All right, well, welcome everybody to the LBX show for June 28th, 2026. I'm your host, Brandon Wiley, and I'm joining you from Eugene, Oregon. I'm out here for the weekend doing a little bit of racing with some friends, and I'll be actually doing this from Nashville this next week at Bowl Expo as well. So anyway, we got a pretty straightforward show lined up for you today. First, we're going to dive into some news you should know, a pretty quick one, and then Kevin Williams joins me for Guest Gab, where we talk about the trends we saw at Augmented World Expo, the AWE in Long Beach last week. And then we'll close it out with a robust open and shut with Kevin Williams to review the latest openings and closings trends from this last week. So without further ado, let's dive into some news you should know. All right, well, as I mentioned, we are going to be at Bowl Expo this week. So coming up in just tomorrow, Bowl Expo kicks off with some education for 2 days, and then we've got an expo where there's 2 days of the actual trade show, which I will be there coming in Tuesday evening, all day there Wednesday, all day there Thursday, flying home Friday, back before 4th of July. So what do we have? We got Bowl Expo, and this is where you can meet Intercard. Intercard is there. They'll be there all day. I'm going to be speaking with JR. He's recently joined Intercard as their head of North American sales, and really looking forward to talking with him about their Impulse Reader Plus, and going to get to know a little bit more about that. And then he's actually going to be joining me for a really interesting guest gab in a couple of weeks as well. We're going to be recording that while we're at the Bowl Expo. More details to come on that particular guest gab with JR. Looking forward to that. Also, if you're looking to get meet Intercard at some other locations this next summer, the next couple of months, August 18th to 19th, they're going to be the IAPA Latin American Summit in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So if you're down there in Latin America and South America, you're planning to join the Latin American Summit there, you'll be able to meet Intercard. And then if you don't want to go all the way down there, you want to be on the East Coast, you're in Duluth, Georgia for the Southern Amusement and Entertainment Expo, you can meet Intercard the same weekend, August 18th to the 20th. So that is the Intercard lineup, and that's where you can meet Intercard over the next few months. All right, next up, we've got something really exciting. As I mentioned, and if you've just been listening to the show the last couple of weeks, you'll know that season 5 is starting in August, and I'm looking for suggestions on how to improve the show, how to make some changes. Already there's some big things coming down the line. We're going to be changing up the way we do our guest gabs, the way we do some road trips, and bringing in a lot more people, a lot more activity and interesting things to each of these shows. Obviously, we'll still have open and shut. That's one of our it's one of the favorite segments of the show. Hopefully, we'll be able to keep doing promo pro tips with Chuck DeMonte, and we'll see how things line up with Arcade Corner as well. So anyway, we're going to have some of the old staples. We're going to be bringing in some new stuff, and we want your suggestions. So you can scan this QR code if you're watching, or you can go to LBX Collective /season5 and fill out that form and drop your suggestions. We've already got a few. They've been great, and looking forward to seeing how we can integrate those into the show. All right, next we've got 4th of July. So Bowl Expo is happening this next week, and then it's over on the 3rd. Everybody goes home, and it's 4th of July on that Saturday, and it's 5th of July on that Sunday. And this is a great opportunity, and it's not just any 4th of July. It is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, obviously of our Independence Day. And so this is where you can go and do something really interesting and fun with your facility. So I'm going to give you one example here. This is Dave & Buster's. They have celebrating America's 250th year with the Star-Spangled Pretzel Dog Tower, because what doesn't say America like a pretzel dog tower? So this thing is $50, and it is an over-the-top, as they call it, 3-tiered feast stacked high with their brand's iconic pretzel dogs, crispy fries as well, and then frazzled onions, which are basically just their onion rings, so it's nothing that special. But it basically is supposed to be the centerpiece of Dave & Buster's week-long celebration honoring America's 250th birthday. It's built for sharing. It's designed, as they say, to bring people together, and they say it's the ultimate addition to family outings, group gatherings, and pre-fireworks festivities. And the reason I bring this up is it is available all week, so June 29th through July 5th. It is $50 at select locations. And they are also hosting a Red, White, and Play Fest on July 3rd, which is a ticketed all-day event packed with family-friendly entertainment, games, and all-American fun. And for just $25 per person, guests can enjoy unlimited gameplay all day long. So, if you really, obviously, it's not going to include redemption. So don't go there and expecting you'd be able to get unlimited redemption prizes, as none of you would do in your own venues anyway. But you can at least get unlimited gameplay. You play the redemption games, just not earning credits. Obviously, a pretzel dog eating contest, so you can get one of your pretzel towers and then slam down a bunch of pretzel dogs if you want to be your own Joey Chestnut. And then they have interactive game challenges and competitions, live music and family entertainment, and then an all-American barbecue experience. So on July 4th, Dave & Buster's is inviting guests to come to its arcades. There's a special early bird all-day unlimited gameplay offer. And for only $2.50, guests can enjoy unlimited gameplay at an unbeatable value. So anyway, all that to be said, this is what Dave & Buster's is doing. I'm not suggesting you do what Dave & Buster's is doing, but I'm suggesting you do something. And hopefully you are already. Hopefully you've already been planning this, you've been pre-marketing this, you've been doing everything that you can on social and also in venue marketing to promote your 4th of July 250th year holiday specials. This is a good example of that. I will say the one thing, even though I really rip on Dave & Buster's a lot, the one thing they do well is take advantage of these types of things, the World Cup, 4th of July, and they do special promotions, special F&B items that are unique and specific to these events and these periods of time and these seasons. And so they do that well. So if you are a venue and you're looking to say, hey, I need some fresh ideas around what to do for my F&B or what to do for my my packages for these seasons, look at Dave & Buster's as one of those examples. Again, there's many things that they get wrong often, but this is one of the things I think that they get right and could be a good example. And if you aren't doing anything, like I said, you should absolutely be doing something along this lines, taking advantage of people getting out and wanting to spend time with their friends and family during the season. So that is news you should know. Coming up with a quick break, we'll have Guest Gab with Kevin Williams to talk about Augmented World Expo and all the cool trends that we saw while we were there.
Intercard makes cashless easy with award-winning readers, self-serve kiosks, real-time reporting, and flexible guest payment options. From play cards and credit cards to mobile payments and QR codes. Since introducing the industry's first card system in 1989, Intercard has helped operators reduce cash handling, increase guest spending, and run smarter venues. Intercard is the world leader in cashless technology. If you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you'll become one soon. Visit intercardinc.com to learn more.
All right. Well, hey, Kevin, welcome to Guest Gab. And we're obviously going to talk a little bit about the Augmented World Expo that has wrapped by now. And you are now back in London after spending time in the show. It was great. Even though it was only a day and an evening with you, it was great to spend some time walking the show floor and, doing all the education and everything else together. So, it was great. What were your overall impressions on both the state of the augmented world, but also as it relates more specifically to location-based entertainment in our industry?
Well, for those that weren't aware, our involvement with AWE, Augmented World Expo, was to help champion a location-based entertainment component to this. Showing how much XR, all aspects, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, shared reality, all of those immersive techs that are covered by AWE impact our industry. And we were lucky enough to have exhibitors there promoting that. We had conferences doing that. So over the 3 days of the event, really what I took away from the aspect is that I was just surprised how, we have gone from the hype to the reality now. Companies like Pico are the de facto headset of choice for many of those, where only a couple of months, if not years ago, we would have been saying that HTC were the de facto headset. We also saw that we're still not quite there with AR. The the event was taking place in the shadow of the recent closure of Versus, the AR holographic attraction system. And part of the reason for the departure of Versus was due to their partnership with Snap and Specs, which happened to launch their platform at the show with a sticker price that caused people to jump off of tall buildings.
Yeah.
And kind of underpinned why maybe Versus just thought that it was, fourth time a charm was not going to cut it. To the bigger overview, it is clear that now that the hype train has been pushed into the buffers, the gravy train has been pushed into the buffers by Meta, and they're now pulling away from the metaverse and the money that they've shoveled into their VR aspirations. They're now pivoting towards AI and AR glasses. There is now a free-for-all in that sector. I've never seen so many glass systems being promoted on the show floor, more than that was at CES, I would actually hazard a guess, or different versions of new technology. All interesting, but as we've said in previous sound offs and in a recent sound off that we've recorded, we're still waiting for that killer app, and we're waiting for that serendipity of finding that killer app. But from my point of view, I was heartened by the positivity to the LBEXR event component, and hopefully we'll be able to announce how we're going to be moving forward with that soon.
Yeah, so I think for me, I was struck by the almost near juxtaposition between, as you said, the reality, more stability that exists in the Meta. Meta had a big presence despite in spite of some of the changes they're going through. Obviously, Snap and their Specs launch up on the second floor, big activation space. You had Pico and Samsung with large spaces as well, and these give like a really solid feel of permanence and professionalism to this industry, while at the same time, so much of what was there felt like very on the edge, experimental, different companies trying to figure out what the hell they're doing with this really cool, unique technology that is still struggling for its place in the world, both in physical spaces, in consumers' homes, or in enterprise applications. And there's so much experimentation. And I think everybody is, again, looking for that killer app for their particular product, whether that's a humanoid robot controlled by AI glasses and an Omni One pedestal, or something used sitting back in a chair while your blood is being drawn, watching a VR experience to make you feel more at home or at ease while that blood is being drawn, to using AR glasses as a way to help diagnose somebody who's dealing with particular issues on their body from a medical application standpoint, to, again, very straightforward consumer-based applications or LBE-based applications. And so there's this very weird juxtaposition of both like these staples of what this industry has become over the last 15, 20 years to the like still very experimental, like single pop-up table with like a little tablecloth over it and one roll-up banner, and they're like trying to showcase their new AR VR idea. And so it had this very like homebrew club meets CES feel to a very fairly small venue.
Yeah, the AWE calls itself a festival within a festival. You have the high-level big presentation of Spec. You have the big auditorium presentations and panel sessions. You have the smaller round table sessions. And as you say, we had the hackathons, and you've got guys with, a couple of Raspberry Pis glued together and some displays, and they're showing off what they think is going to be the next compelling augmented system. I was also interested to see some of the immersive display tech that was also shown. We had a brand new, what I would call holographic display system. We had volumetric camera capture there. Oh, thank you. The Explorer system from Starport is Is it the starport system from Explorer? Anyway,
I can't figure it out. I think it's the starport system from Explorer. I don't really know. Yeah, exactly. But here we see like little baby Groot, if you're listening to this, dancing in this really actually fairly compelling. I thought this was pretty well done. One of the best holographic displays I've seen in some time. And it's interactive. So I wasn't able to do it very well myself because it's all very still like beta, but you know, you could basically reach your hands into this area and it sees your hands and you can move it in a way that like scales and expands it. You could rotate it. And this guy who is showing up at the back end of the video was able to actually like successfully manipulate it. You can see him doing this with one of the, you know, I'm not sure that's King Tut, but you know, a display in there and he's moving it around.
We are at that point where we're going to have that save me Obi-Wan moment where we're going to finally get that holographic projection system, or I don't mean projection using projectors. I actually mean a system that will project an image that feels like that. And another thing about AWE is it allows us to see the beginnings of this type of application. That technology actually reminded me of the old Sega arcade, the holograph. Oh, if Adam was here, he'd be able to remind me back in the 90s, where they used that fishbowl to do the refraction to then simulate the image being shot out in front of you. Not as clearly as this system works, and I hope that this is the beginning of new technology that we'll see available for our sector. My concerns are that really we've had a lot of the steam pulled out of the consumer application of XR, courtesy to the mess that Meta has left on the carpet, as it were. And there are a number of companies that were showing head-mounted display systems that were mixed reality, that were heading more towards a direction of emulating what Apple had done with the Apple Vision Pro than trying to emulate what Meta had done with the Quest range of systems. We had Samsung showing their partnership with Google and the Galaxy XR. We had behind closed doors our friends at Pico showing off their Swan system that is you know, an MR, close form factor, very Apple-esque kind of system, you know, and you know, all of these systems could be another dead end. I'm concerned that if the market is cool to what's happened with Meta, then they may not be willing to jump up and down and buy the latest mixed reality headset unless they see that killer app that I keep on going on about. That all of that said, the technology is still very sticky and people are still enthused by it. The interest of the people that were using the VR entertainment systems that companies such as VR Cave and Synthesis VR and HoloLabs had brought to the show. There's still a lot of interest there. And even in the mixed reality, our friends at Dream Parks were showing a couple of game experiences on their system, which hopes to keep the momentum going from a commercial entertainment point of view, if not from a consumer.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction here because you have lots of startups that are looking for that balance between commercial versus or LBE versus consumer. You know, one of the startups there was this guy from Virtual Go. He's a small indie developer, created this concept that is fairly unique. You know, it started as consumer concept where I can be in my environment and I can be moving around in my environment, have a game that is built around and it automatically maps my environment where I am, but then I can invite other players, both physically with me or external players, into my environment, which I thought was really interesting. And here's a scenario where they built this really cool consumer thing, and now they're like sort of mentioning that this can turn any place into a game, and so maybe this is for LBE, and maybe venues would want to put this in party rooms or in other places, and you can bring these different groups together. And so this bring different venues together into a single location and different people. So like you have this like massive multiplayer game, VR game with people in different locations. Anyway, I thought that this is interesting that they're finding they're struggling to find traction on the consumer side, and so they're now leaning into LBE. And then you obviously have these, the others like Hato, which has been exclusively focused on LBE, and they have a relatively compelling I would say MR experience here.
Yeah.
One of the most
they would say AR. They would double down.
I think they would probably say AR. I think you're right that they would double down on that. And look, it's somewhat interesting. It takes a little bit of time to learn to play, but look, in other markets, in international markets, there are leagues and kids practice stuff on a regular basis. They have trainers and coaches and really compete here. So this is like one of the first AR types of esports experiences that has seen strong success. And it was a fun experience to experiment and play with. I'm just not sure yet that the headsets that they're using are still going to be long-term viable for massive expansion and adoption. And this is maybe where some of the thinner form factor applications that Pico's developing, maybe this is one of those applications for AR glasses that allow me to be able to move much more freely and with less encumbrances on my face, and yet still have a compelling AR experience.
Yeah. So Melee, the Japanese company behind the Hato platform, is kind of them to support the LBE event. This was Hato USA. I think the guys were a little bit out of their comfort zone because it is difficult to impart exactly how compelling in Asia Hato is. We are talking about major esports level competitions here, and we're also talking very much a very young person and teenager attractive. But that said, I am still amazed that they're still using what I would call 10-year-old technology of a smartphone kind of device put into a head mount, and you're just seeing a very rudimentary fireball and shield and scoring information with the addition of your wristband data system. They're going to have to, at some point in time, bite the bullet and upgrade this technology. And when they do, you're quite right. I think it will be heading down the use of the latest generation of technology rather than still depending on 10-year-old tech.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, any other final thoughts on AWE as we close out this guest gab?
Well, other than thanking all of those that supported it, both coming to the conference session, exhibiting, and sponsoring, I'm still finding it unusual that the VR location-based entertainment industry hasn't really doubled down on coming up with a definitive means to express what they're offering uniquely to the market. And I was also surprised by the number of companies in the consumer sector that were now pivoting towards using the LBE phrase as a means to say, oh, look, we're also in LBE. So I'm wondering if we're going to have a meeting in the middle, and I would like to throw it out to maybe IALPA in November, where we kind of see a come to Jesus moment for this tech in the sector.
Indeed. All right, well, to be seen if we actually see that happen in November, but in the meantime, we'll see you on the next guest gab.
Have a good one.
If you run a location-based entertainment brand and want to attract more visitors, check out Radius. They use real-time location data and customized marketing strategies to help brands like yours stand out. Radius can boost your foot traffic and build a loyal customer base. Plus, they're offering a complimentary local market analysis to show you exactly how they can help you grow. Curious? Visit radius.co and ask about your free market analysis. That's RAYDIUS.co.
All right, well, that was a great guest gab with Kevin Williams talking about Augmented World Expo. And what we got coming up right now is Open and Shut with Kevin Williams. We're going to talk about all the latest openings and closing trends of the last week. And let's take it away.
Hey, big hello to everyone and welcome to the latest Sound Off. How are we doing, Brandon?
Doing well, doing well. Just sitting here in Eugene, Oregon, and I'm surprisingly in not as hot of an environment as you are.
Yeah, London is a scorching. We are breaking records.
It's nuts. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's dive into the openings.
Well, we've got another full packet of facility openings, and I'm already halfway through the next one. So things have not let up at all. I think there is a little bit of a spurt on to try and capture the holiday traffic, shall we say, vacation traffic. There is the Taurus of Pain for those that are following, and we jump in straight with our friends at Palladium. In Canada, we're up to now 5 facilities under the Palladium brand. I would argue that the Palladium brand is one of the oldest of the mixed-use leisure entertainment concepts that are out there, even though it is run by our friends at Cinetainment. Cineplex, I do apologize. The issue is that this is a entertainment venue on a reasonable size. 24,000 square is a good size that has the complete mix of everything from your duck pin bowling all the way down to amusement and VR attractions.
I mean, this is about as close to what a main event is as you can get. I mean, they have ropes course, they have bowling, they have arcades. They do have some wall climbing, which is obviously not not part of the typical main event mix. But yeah, this is basically a main event mix out of Canada primarily.
It's always been a difficult one to know whose hand was in whose pocket regarding the design. If you look at the dates of when the first main event opened compared against the first Palladium, then you kind of understand. They were part of the first flush of the location-based entertainment revolution. And Palladium also is well known as it was the test vehicle for the GameWorks concept originally.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'll call out here is this is a new location, and they did install gel blasters Nexus. So this is clearly there's still venues that are putting this in. I mean, we talked about Main Event who tried gel blasters in their laser tag arenas, decided to pull them out, and now here's a new location that has a gel blasters exclusive arena. This isn't a laser tag arena. That's both. They're really targeting gel blasters, and if you look at some of the pictures of their gel blaster arena, it's the arena that gel blasters really works to sell. It's kind of that like inflatable type material, the really tight knit inflatable material that will end up looking a little bit interesting and tired after a little bit of time.
Yes, the aroma will be special. And past Kevin talking to future Kevin about the requests to try and contact gel blasters. We did try. A number of messages were sent, but sadly they have not returned. So it looks like we're going to be buttonholing them on the IALPA booth on November. Moving on, and we have something that we'll touch upon in a sound off later on, but we have quite a large Slick City action park going in. Action Park pushing heavy on their not just being predominantly the slides and the trampoline experiences, but also looking at their go-kart, also looking at their mini golf and their F&B and their amusement. We're up to 41 chains in the Slick City operation, but when I see the venue calling itself the world's first indoor slide park, both I raise an eyebrow. That was an obvious marketing man too close to the bottle.
4 kilos of potatoes.
But also there is the issue that we need to bear in mind in that this is quite a big pivot for them to go for a mixed use entertainment offering of this kind.
Yeah, obviously we'll dig into this more on Sound Off, but yeah, I think it's the one thing I would call out here is that at least this franchisee has seen, has forecasted some of the things we've been talking about, which is the single attraction model that Slick City has used in most of their franchise locations is going to be an issue for those locations in the future, and they're getting ahead of it by opening up with these attractions right out of the gate.
Agreed. Our friends at Time Zone, another Indian facility, according to their information, this is their 94th Indian facility at Hyderabad now, out of their 306 time zone venues across the oceanic, from Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam, all around that area. From the look of it, I couldn't get a size of the space, but it looks to be a slightly smaller time zone than we've seen in some of the other rollouts. But again, it is interesting to see that particular market expanding and embracing this particular kind of location-based entertainment.
Well, embracing to be seen, but time zones, no slouch. They've been around for a long time, and we'll see how long this model can continue to be sustained in these markets.
Yes, it is a ticking time bomb where they're going to have to address keeping up with the competition. We've already touched upon our friends at Dave & Buster's entering this particular area. So moving on, and we have a cluster of what I would call independent VR facilities. They are still rolling out. They are still being seen as a profitable operation. Our friends in Delaware with High Tide VR offering a number of what would be seen as kind of temporary VR arenas, but in a permanent dedicated space. We then also have virtual ventures in Iowa, again, a labor of love kind of facility, a bit of everything there, a number of the Chinese off-the-shelf VR machines, as well as a spattering of other systems. Then we've touched upon this, the Smithsonian parachuting in a semi-permanent virtual adventure system with their Starstruck tour of the universe kind of approach. And then we have Grid City VR in Colorado, which again is a mix of competitive socializing with a very strong VR element.
Man, I feel like we just went from worse to better in that order, maybe. If we're talking about dedicated VR facilities, the Grid or just Grid City, we'll say VR is probably the most viable out of all three that we saw. I mean, to be fair, the Starstruck is meant to be a pop-up exhibition. So, I think it makes sense that this is, not going to be, but these others, I don't know, are questionable. Or like you talk about High Tide, these are like the old school VR installations. At least it's not tethered, which I don't know that you can buy tethered VR much anymore anyway. So that we've at least moved on from the tethered VR cubicles, we'll call them, or donkey stalls, to a little bit more open environment. But Grid City is interesting. I mean, they've got a good look and feel. This is what I feel like a sandbox VR should look like on the inside, potentially. Now we can't say that their gameplay is obviously as good. They don't have the same level of IP that Sandbox has. We don't know what VR systems they're using necessarily. But the rest of the venue certainly has a better look and feel, and obviously has the bar and social component that Sandbox, I think we've talked about for many years now, has been missing.
It has the mix. It has some VR, what we would call conventional VR arena systems, but it also has some race simulator systems. So it is a mix. Looking at their website, they have a very nice bar branding aspect. I would say they're a little light on going into details on their actual experiences, but again, early days, they're getting their feet under the table. I'm not sure of how many Westminster, Colorado VR facilities there are that they have to go up against, but we have a set.
Sorry, they didn't call it zero latency explicitly here, but I do see that they have Space Marine VR as one of their attractions, so it could be a zero latency installation. Then that would make sense.
Oh, okay. Well, they didn't shout that from the hilltops of their webpage.
No, I had to dig for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Moving on, and in Japan, we have a brand new approach from our friends at Capcom. Capcom have a number of amusement facilities they've been upgrading and offering a much more immersive entertainment mix. They've also been looking at trying to increase their recognition factor, building on their IP. So we get Cap Comics, I think is what they're going for. This is the second facility. We've talked about their first one, and now Yokohama gets this facility. It is a mix of everything. They have some VR entertainment, which they have rolled themselves based on their IP. They have some amusement, and they also have some F&B.
This really seems like it's meant to be or intended to be a retailtainment, sort of like a cross store or something like to that extent. Is that really what you feel like they're trying to achieve here?
I think they're trying to achieve this. This is part of a cluster that is going into Yokohama, and one of the stores next door to the comics. It's one of those, as you would say, IP sales facilities, retailers. It is going to be the way going forwards. If you're not next door to a crane or a capsule operation, then you're next door to a retail store pushing your merch. Moving on, and Topgolf, another important development that we're going to touch upon in detail in Sound Off. This is a major pivot, and I think a number of people have missed what type of pivot this is.
Yeah, looking forward to talking about this. The only thing I'll just call out is this is still, given the pivot, which we'll end up talking about, still a massive facility with 102 hitting bays across 3 levels and a full service restaurant. So still feels a little overbuilt, but yeah, looking forward to the discussion around the, at least some of the directional pivots that we're seeing here at this location.
I agree that it is overbuilt, but again, it is one of those properties that was developed before the management shift.
Yeah, so exactly.
Swings and roundabouts. Moving on, our friends at Time Mission, another notch on their wall, or on their walking stick, depending on their point of view. This one's an interesting one, that it's actually an attraction within an attraction. The Terminal 1 facility in Brussels is a well-known, quite a large entertainment concept with quite a mix of F&B and other things. And now they've parachuted into that mix a Time Mission. This will be their 10th Time Mission franchise to roll out. And we look forward to seeing how the audience reacts to this mission experience.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this does here. I've always thought that these types of adventure rooms, mission rooms, etc. We should probably land on a specific term for these. Like mission rooms or whatever. But I've always thought that these work well as an ancillary attraction. So it could be an anchor potentially, but as one of multiple attractions instead of standalone. We do have Activate. We've talked about some of the issues we have with the Activate standalone attractions. Level 99 is obviously trying to be its own thing, but it also has full F&B. They only are up to 3 locations. Where Time Mission is trying to find both the single attraction franchisee operator model, but then obviously feeling totally comfortable dropping their concept into an existing facility with multiple attractions. I think it will do well in this very large facility. It's 10,000 square meters, which is pushing 100,000 square feet. And so it would be, I think this is a good addition, and happy to see Time Mission expanding.
The terminal designator is a good name for the size of this space, and it is a hub. It is a centerpiece, and adding an entertainment cluster, maybe a couple of these type of off-the-shelf franchise systems, is an approach. I was surprised by doing some research that there are many kinds of this multiple room mission or group-based activity, from our friends at Crystal Maze all the way down to Level 99 and across to Time Mission. At some point in time, I think it's worth taking a closer look at these venues, because they are, the partner to the escape room business, as it were.
Indeed.
Moving on, and we come to the shuts and sales, and it's an interesting period of time for the sector. We have change going on. We just touched upon it earlier, that we saw our friends, with the new trampoline venue now having to be more active. I'm doing this slightly out of order. Urban Air has closed down their facility, in Texas. one of their many facilities. No real details given for the closure. And then, surprise, surprise, our friends at Nitro Action Adventure Parks are now reopening that site. Interesting point that they've actually ripped out a number of the trampoline components to put in entertainment. So kind of showing that our friends at Nitro Action Parks are looking towards a mixed-use entertainment approach rather than just depending on the bounce. Our friends at One Up Arcade Bar is one of the early of the retro brew bar applications. You know, they have a number of facilities out there, 3 facilities. Well, they had 4, and they had 3. They haven't really plowed through that fast compared to some of the other retro bars, but they're an established brand, and you know, from all reports, they're very popular with their loyal audience. This particular facility in Denver was one of the earlier facilities, opened in 2011, and then suddenly, big announcement, we're closing. And it was put down in the information from the let's call it the GM. The changing conditions in the downtown Denver area and increased financial pressures were the reasons for the close, and they've already stated that they will be opening up a brand new facility in the locale as soon as possible. So, you know, one landlord's loss will soon be another landlord's gain.
Yeah, I mean, from the description of the reasons, it really just sounds like the Denver area was maybe either gaining additional real estate pressure. So their costs of the real estate went up. Their lease was probably up for renewal or renegotiation. I mean, it is about 15 years after they opened, so they may have had like a 10-year lease and then a 5-year renewal period or something to that extent. And now they're up for renewal, and they're like, well, sorry, we're doing well in these other locations, so we're going to get the hell out.
By the way, we've just found a 13,000 square space that so we'll be getting the trucks in and moving everything down the road.
Yeah,
it is what it is. I will still keep a close eye on the One Up arcade chain because it is quite a tempestuous market at the moment, but this seems to be more to do with real estate squabbling. Acquisitions, and National Shores has been acquired by EPR Parks for $12 million. Interesting acquisition. A large water park been going since 1998. And now EPR has expanded its operation to over 355 operations. Now, they don't just do water parks, they also have hotel interests and other property, even cinema interests. But it is, again, an example of consolidation, as we like to keep on touching upon.
Yeah, and we don't know what this what the revenue was here, how they valued this particular water park. 12.1 million is not a small acquisition amount, but also depending on their revenue, depending on the overall size of the land that they're acquiring, the facilities, the capital investment over multiple years since 1998. I mean, this seems like this. Hopefully there was some. This wasn't totally distressed, and it was just a group ready to either retire or exit. But I mean, EPR is the biggest real estate investment trust in our space. They are an experiential. They call themselves they explicitly call themselves an experiential REIT. So they are focused on experiential properties, and yeah, they have everything from theaters to other attractions to lodging, and then obviously water parks and even cultural institutions. So these guys are just continuing looking for these opportunities. Many times they often will buy the underlying property and then lease that property back to the operators. So they'll come in and they want to own the land and not necessarily the operations. So this may or may not have been that situation here, but that is how they often operate.
Yeah, they're accruing quite a cluster of operations. Experiential always leaves me a little cold when it is used in that type of definition, but we understand that their heart is in this side of the entertainment.
Yeah, for sure.
A weird one here. We have a mixture of two monster glow-in-the-dark mini golf facilities, part of a 47 facility chain. And then we wake up to social media information back in May. So this is only coming to us a couple of weeks late, that their Florida facility, the Pembroke Pines facility, would be closing down. Not a lot of information given. And, suddenly you look at the small print and then you see that social media statement isn't being written by the operators of the facility or the franchisees. It's being written by Monster Mini Golf, and they make it quite clear that no longer operating as an authorized franchise. That's kind of, A, they ain't paid, we're angry, or we're angry, these are no longer, and if you've got any outstanding bookings, here's an email, get in contact with us. That then led down the rabbit hole towards, around the same time, a couple of days separation, that the Monster Mini Golf down the road at Coral Springs, Florida, had shuttered with a terse announcement on their social media saying, goodbye and thanks for all the fish, we're no longer operational. I've tried to do a little bit more digging. I don't think this is a problem with Monster Mini Golf. I think this is a problem specifically with a certain franchisee, franchisor, really, I suppose we should say. I'm looking at this as the kind of problems that you have when you give multiple facility franchises to one particular company, that it's taken them 12 months to work out that they don't have the business acumen to run this, and you've hit the buffers, and for whatever reason you've had to step in and sort of cancel the usage of your brand's name there as you try and pick out the pieces. That it took 12 months for this realization is very telling.
Yeah, taking 12 months, it may have been that they maybe had enough capital to run for 12 months, but there's a couple of issues. This is probably very likely a single franchisee with two location, with a license for two, maybe plus more locations. And I'm not saying that this is the case. Sometimes when you get into a franchise situation, you're required, in order to preserve your radius, to preserve your market, you're required to open up a certain number of locations within a period of time. And so there's sometimes pressure to expand before you're financially viable or ready to. But at the same time, that was an agreement that they obviously felt comfortable at the time signing, if this was indeed the case. I know the CEO and of Monster Mini Golf. In fact, we did a behind our doors, many years ago with the LBX Collective. The video is no longer available on YouTube, but the audio is available on any podcast platform or on our own website. Of just walking through the tour of Monster Mini Golf and an interview with their CEO, Chris King. And they've got a solid operation. So my assumption is that this was just a case where the franchisees did maybe overextend themselves in expanding too quickly and not having strong, viable business acumen.
I think we need to touch upon, maybe in a later sound off, the realities of the franchise issues in the market. That's something for a future Kevin to worry about. Anyway, thank you very much for all the information that was passed on to us about what's been going on in the sector. We have a number of so we have a number of Stinger reports out, and we also have some entertainment social arenas in the works. But again, if you need to contact me directly, LinkedIn or via the email.
Perfect. All right. Well, another great open and shut, and we will see you on the next one.
Have a good one.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry And if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
All right. Well, we have that was a great open and shut. And this week coming up, we have a sound off with Kevin Williams. This is number 127, and it's taking place on this Tuesday, June 30th at 10 a.m. as usual Pacific time, and it'll be going live at that point. Kevin's going to dive into the latest trends and then cover some of his final thoughts on Augmented World Expo and much more on again on that Tuesday, June 30th. And then we will be at Bowl Expo this week. So you can find me at Bowl Expo on all day Wednesday at the trade show floor and all day Thursday at the trade show floor. I will be coming in Tuesday, but I will be at Printer's Alley enjoying some blues music. So you will not see me on Tuesday until Wednesday. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you guys there and seeing you on the next LBX show. This is Brandon Wiley signing off. Stay tuned and keep kicking ass.